Welcome into the Rumbles of Red. We are live, running solo tonight, recapping Wildcard Weekend. It was a wild one. Get into some games here tonight. I guess it is. This is the first time going live at night, so I'm interested to see how this goes, see how the viewership goes. Maybe have some more opportunity to interact. Hit the chat if you got any questions. Want to interact with me there. If you're following live on YouTube, hit the like button. Subscribe to my page, The Rumbles of Red. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, please subscribe, leave a 5-star review. All those subscribes, the likes, the reviews, it just helps me build a brand here, helps us get recognized when people are searching the interwebs for some content, when they want to know what happened, over Wildcard Weekend. Maybe they'll find me and maybe they'll learn something from me today. So if you want to be a part of the show, email me at therumblesofred@gmail.com. Just get some housekeeping items out of here. Just looking for a sponsor in the off-season here to help continue running some live shows. Go through the off-season. We'll finish up the playoffs and continue to probably go twice a week here today and working on some scheduling conflicts. Maybe try to go Thursday or Friday this week as well. Maybe I'll go both times. Maybe we'll go Thursday and Friday. But if you want to help sponsor the show, email me therumblesofred@gmail.com. Let's get into it. Let me hit this intro music. All right, I'll start with our playoff pick'ems or another one. We'll run it back. I won't do that. I'll start with our playoff pick'ems. Ended up with 35 entries into the contest. One of our entries went 6 out of 8. So you like that. They missed the Rams beating the Seahawks, and no one picked the Browns scoring the most points in the round either. But they hit 6 out of the 8. So what we did, we picked the winner of all 4 games plus who's going to score the most points, who's going to score the least amount of points. Currently, Herbie in the loop, leading the pack with 6 points scored, or 6 points correct. The Browns, so they ended up being the highest scoring team on the slate. They were like plus 400 to be the lowest scoring on the slate, which was interesting. I don't know what their line was for the highest scoring. I wish I would have laid it, obviously. That would have been great money there. My guess is probably plus 3,000, plus 4,000 to be the highest scoring team of Wild Card Weekend. They ended up being the highest scoring team, though. I actually had laid money on them, plus 400 to be the lowest scoring team. That did not work out and didn't work out in a hurry. We'll talk a little bit more about that game and how wild it got. Before we go too much farther, I want to give a shout-out to SM Auto Detailing. Get your car prepped for the winter months with SM Auto Detailing. Paint protection is essential for the winter months. Chemicals and grime on the road that's going to eat away at your paint, causing rust spots, and those rust spots will devalue your vehicle. SM Auto Detailing will decontaminate your vehicle's exterior and protect it with a top-shelf sealant lasting 6 months. Don't wait any longer to get your vehicle protected. The snow, the ice that we've been having, that stuff that brings salt on the roads, all that's going to eat up right at your exterior of the vehicle. So go to smautodetailing.com today for your free quote. That's smautodetailing.com. Go ahead and tell them Trevor sent you over there. I'm excited to continue to help support the sponsors there. Sorry, I got a volume issue here with my – it's all good. We're running live. We're fine. was just talking earlier today about how I needed a producer, an editor, somebody to help me out here. They can listen to it while I talk. Let's get into the Wildcard Weekend. Let's get into the games. Let's start with the Saturday slate. Bills beat the Colts 27-24. The total on this was 51.5. At least that's where I saw it last. The game landed right at 51. Vegas knows their stuff, right? They're pretty good at this. I hit that live total. I hit the over 47.5 at one point. That's what I did most of the weekend, was just live bet, just watching the games, seeing how things are going. That live total is fluctuating all the time. Didn't work out in some games. This game, it did work out as I hit that live total of 47.5, hit the over. Colts cover the 7 points. But when talking about fantasy, I mean, the Colts were kind of garbage. You're not going to play Phillip Rivers. Jonathan Taylor didn't do much. He was 55% owned in DFS, 15.5, just shy of 15.5 FanDuel points. It doesn't get there. It doesn't double his value, especially GPP. You really want to get more, 2.5, 3 times the value if possible. Jonathan Taylor didn't do it. T.Y. Hilton didn't really do much. Maybe it's because they weren't playing the Houston Texans. Nyheim Hines wasn't it. I mean, you go down the list of these Colts players, and it wasn't there. It wasn't there this week. The only place it was there was Jack Doyle. 18.5 FanDuel points. I saw him only 3% owned in most of the tournaments that I played in. That's what I saw, was he was sitting at 3% owned. That was big time. Best tight end on the slate for Saturday. Michael Pittman and Zach Pascal, they were both cheaper. They were both usable for how cheap they were. They allowed you to get different elsewhere and spend up elsewhere. But ultimately, out of this game, it was all about Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. Right? That was the stack of the day. That was the chalk of the day. That's what people wanted to see, and that's what they got. Diggs is good. Josh Allen's good. I'm excited to see them play the Ravens this week. I think that the Ravens defense showed up and played really well this week, but I think this is more of a shootout than what both of these games were last week with the Bills and Ravens. Hoping for that anyways. Probably going to try to look at the over. We'll look at a couple of the matchups here at the end of the stream. We'll focus mostly on that Thursday, Friday. Later on the stream says just more recapping what we saw, what we liked. One thing we didn't like was John Brown put up 0 points. So if you play a lot of John Brown, that sucked. You're pretty much dead, especially in big tournament field lineups. I played a lot of 1,500 entries. Not myself, but that's how many people were in the contest. All single entry stuff. But when John Brown puts up 0 points, you're not going to get much out of it. The same thing if you play John Brown in a playoff contest, an FFPC. If you're in the Rumbles of Red Playoff Fantasy League and play John Brown, it just hurts. No catches, no yards. That hurts. Gabriel Davis, if you watch this game, I called him Twinkle Toes on Twitter. At one point, it just felt like he was killing it. Every other pass felt like it was going to him there for a while, but he only ended up at 4 for 85 yards, which is obviously great yards per catch if you're an analytics guy. Dawson Knox gets the touchdown to pay off at tight end. Cole Beasley, 7 catches, which is good, but that's only – I play mostly FanDuel. It's half-point PPR, so it's not going to get you a lot there. And for my FFPC team, Josh Allen is my quarterback, and I was expecting them to face the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. That's obviously not happening with the Steelers losing, so I'm a little bit worried here. You know, obviously Baltimore can win that game very easily. Then I lose my quarterback already. I would have liked to see Josh Allen at least in the AFC Championship and trying to be different off of Mahomes there in the AFC. I want the AFC quarterbacks, right? Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Pat Mahomes, even Baker. This is the young blood. And then you look in the NFC, you got old man Drew Brees and Tom Brady. Aaron Rodgers, he's old too. He looks great. MVP probably this year, but he's still older. Jared Goff isn't old, but he feels old because he's been around for a long time. But it's like You got the AFC with the young guns and the NFC with the old guys. Anyways, back to the Colts. I full faded them. I think it worked well in FFPC because a lot of people took Jonathan Taylor as chalk, and like I talked about, he wasn't great this week. He just wasn't great, and we're not worried about that. And Jonathan Taylor. The teaser bet was we teased Buffalo -7 down to -1. That worked out. The teaser did not work out. We'll talk about that here in a little while, but Buffalo portion of that did. Overall, fine game. 27-24. You kind of was pulling for the Colts as a Chiefs fan to pull off the upset. Would have been kind of cool to see Phillip in the playoffs one more time for the Chiefs, but ultimately the Bills finish it off. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs show why they've been one of the best tandems all season long. The Rams pull off an upset over the Seahawks, 30-20. Only like 5 entries had the Rams in our Reds playoffs pick'ems. And there for a while, that was the big upset. Before the Browns at the very last game, the Rams upsetting the Seahawks, that was the biggest differentiator in the pick'ems. I think we had 3 perfect pick'ems through the first day, if I remember right. If you were one of them, go ahead and hit it in the chat. Steph did not want to see Phyllis move on. I don't blame. Nobody really actually wanted to see Phyllis move on. I just think it would have been kind of cool. And obviously, for me, I was worried about the Chiefs facing Lamar Jackson this round and then Josh Allen in the AFC Championship. That would have been difficult. As a Chiefs fan, that would have been 2 really difficult games. Luckily, the Browns pulled the upset, so now the Ravens and Bills get to play each other. But that's kind of one of the reasons I was hoping for the Colts to pull the upset, just to make sure that the Chiefs could avoid having to play the Ravens and Bills in back-to-back weeks, and they do get to avoid that, which is great. Back to the Seahawks and Rams. Seahawks look like shit. This team, I saw they fired their offensive coordinator already. What happened? They were so good through 12 weeks or so, just went downhill in a hurry. DK Metcalf, he's a grown man. He's still really good at football. Not going to be worried there. I don't want to get too far into the weeds on redraft leagues and things like that, but he could be a top 2 round. 2 round probably is easy. He could be a first-round pick next year. If you think, Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, these guys have all been first-round picks in the past. Why couldn't DK Metcalf be that in the future? Could be. Russ, he ends up all right. He ends up being fine at the quarterback. He's not the quarterback you wanted. That would have been Josh Allen. But if you played Russ, you didn't lose because of him. Cam Akers was the play from this game. 28 for 131 and a touchdown. He adds 2 catches and 45 yards through the air. I smashed him. I played him so much. I talked about him on Friday as well. It was a great play. A little skinny stack with Akers and DK out of this game would have been perfect. That would have been the perfect way to play it. Maybe even get the Rams defense in there. The Rams pass catchers, not so much. And Tyler Lockett, he's still not a good NFL wide receiver. I stand by that. I don't believe in him. I like him. He's a K-State guy, so it's hard to not like him, but I don't think he's a good NFL wide receiver. He's never going to be a number 1 consistently. I took the Seahawks way too many times on Saturday, ultimately losing most of my money from Saturday on this game. The over smash, I took the under. I took the Seahawks live, their money line, and I think I took them live -2.5 as well. I expected Russell Wilson to make a comeback. I expected him to do something, and he just didn't. And I know that the Rams defense is good. Obviously, Aaron Donald's one of the best in the league. But I think that you have to expect a little bit more out of Russell Wilson. He loses to backup quarterback Jared Goff. He started the game backup. Obviously, with the injury, I don't even remember the cat's name at this point. Walford. He starts the game, gets injured early. Goff comes in, and Goff looked really good. For me in FFPC, Matt Gay is my kicker. So it was a soft fade of the Rams. I expected the Rams to lose this game. I wanted to get their kicker, but I didn't want anybody that's going to play skill position. That was wrong. Cam Akers was the play here. That's where I should have went. I wanted to go there. I just didn't because I expected them to lose this game. And then DK Metcalf was my Seattle play, which was the perfect play in this scenario because when a team loses, you just want to either fade that team or hit their best player. And I hit their best player with DK Metcalf in Seattle. He had a great game. Our under 48, we teased this to under 48. That was our first miss on the teaser. Ultimately, that's the miss that loses the money, but we missed a lot in the Cleveland-Pittsburgh game as well. So it wasn't the only one that we missed. Oh, my brother got in the chat. Don't worry about being late, man. Hey, welcome in. Thanks for being here. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. If you are here, you want to chat, send in a chat. I'll respond to it as I go through here. I've got the notes. I want to get through some of the games and talk recap, whatever you guys want to talk about. You got a question, send it in. I'll answer it. We'll talk about it. If you're on Apple or Spotify, you're listening to me on the podcast. Thanks for listening. Try to jump on the YouTube live next time. Send in the questions. You can also tweet me at Trev's Fantasy Pod. I always like answering questions. Let's move on to Tampa Bay. They faced the Washington football team. They beat the Washington, hold off the Washington football team, and the fighting Heinekes, 31-24. 31-23. Tampa was an 8.5-point favorite. So Washington covers the 8.5 and the over hits on this game as well, which we were kind of talked about the unders a lot on Friday, and we had somebody in the chat saying hit the overs, and they were right. He also told me to hit the over 289.5. I told him there was no way he needed like 102 points in the last two games. So, dude, you're crazy if you think you're getting 102 points in these games. And he nearly got 100 points in the Cleveland-Pittsburgh game. Ridiculous. Washington played inspired football behind old Heineke. So I think that might have been his first ever start. He looked fine. He looked fun. It was enjoyable to watch as just an NFL fan, not really caring who wins the game. You care about your bets. You care about your fantasy teams, those kind of things. You care about your pick'ems. But ultimately, when you're just watching the game, you don't necessarily care. And Heineke was fun to watch as that NFL fan just watching the game. Antonio Gibson was not fun to watch, which I think it could have been expected. Probably should have been expected. Antonio Gibson was overowned in DFS. I tried to fade him. I did late swap to him in a couple leagues. Just my teams were running well, and I thought he was going to be chalk. But he had a tough day and ultimately screwed me in those late swap scenarios. But the Buccaneers, we knew they had a good defense, and so you kind of have to expect that. It'll be interesting this week against Alvin Kamara. I think Kamara catches enough passes that he doesn't get slowed down. I actually think it's more interesting for Latavius Murray. He goes out injured, and we'll talk a little bit about him, but I don't think he's in play at all this week. Not necessarily because of the injury, but just because of the Tampa Bay defense. It is a very stout run defense. You do beat them through the air, and that's what Washington tried to do. Terry McLaurin, Logan Thomas, they had average days. They're going to help you cash if you play them in DFS. Probably not going to help you win the big pot. Probably not going to help you win the top 5, where that's where all the money's being paid out, but it probably helped you get to the cash line. Cam Sims, I had him a couple times. I was going to pull up Cam Sims, percent owned in this contest. There was 1,008 entries. My team was garbage, but I did have Cam Sims, probably my best play. 2.6% owned, 13.9 FanDuel points, 7 catches, 104 yards. That was good stuff there. That was a good play. I'll take that play. It was also a late swap. I had him in my flex. I just felt like everybody was going to be on McLaurin, and I needed to catch up. I also played Rob Gronkowski. And we're going to get to Tampa Bay here in a second. But I like the Cam Sims call. I thought it was a good, smart move. One of many smart moves I think I had over the week. But they just weren't all together. It didn't really pan out too well. And let's talk about these Bucks. Why was Ronald Jones active? They say he's got a quad injury. Like, aren't you supposed to, in the NFL, aren't you supposed to tell people? Like, isn't it mandated you tell people about injuries? And we knew that he had an issue, but why did you activate him if you weren't going to play him? It's like Clyde back in week, 14 it was? They activated him and didn't play him. Like, just don't activate him. I guess you try to do it because maybe if somebody goes down, and maybe if Fournette gets hurt, Ron Jones can make it happen. But in Tampa, you got Keyshawn Vaughn and Leonard Fournette. Like, you don't need Ronald Jones to be active. It was frustrating. It sucked just seeing him sit on the bench. And then Gronk, he was out there. Gronk was playing. Gets a big old fat 0 as well. I guess he just decided to take the playoffs off. Maybe he's waiting to get back to Tampa for the Super Bowl so he can party like he did in Miami last year. One of my lineups, I had John Brown, Ronald Jones, and Rob Gronkowski. 3 zeros on the day. You can't, like, even after you get a 0 from John Brown in game 1 of the 3-game slate, you're not going to be in position to cash the big money. But I had him, and I was in a position to kind of get close to the cash line. And then the next 2 guys bust. It was a ridiculous weekend with zeros from guys who are good. We'll talk about another one on the Sunday slate. But guys who are good, and they didn't show up. Their teams win. John Brown, Ron Jones, Gronk, they all won. But their teams won, but they did not. I ended up watching the first half of this game. Once I realized Rojo wasn't playing, I was out. I turned it off, gave up on it, and now I have a big decision to make. In our playoff fantasy league, do I go ahead and stick with these Tampa players, take the multipliers, or do I just move on from them? Ultimately, it comes down to, do I think Tampa is going to continue to move forward? Can Tampa Bay beat the New Orleans Saints? And then if they do, can they beat the Green Bay Packers and make the Super Bowl? I think they're good enough to, but that's a decision that's heavily weighing this week, because even if I do stick with Gronk, is he going to continue to put up 0? 0 minus 2 is still 0. Like, it's not going to help me out any. Ronald Jones, 0 points. That's not going to help me out any. Is he going to play next week? It's going to be a factor in whether or not I play these guys. I had Ronald Jones in my FFPC play. Obviously, that hurts. You can't really take a 0 in that league and expect any money back. I hard faded Washington, which I'm happy with. Thomas was a big play. Gibson and McLaurin, those guys were all the most played from Washington, and neither one of them did anything to hurt me as I hard faded them. The teaser play was Bucks minus 2.5, so we did hit that, which we were good there. Talking about our fantasy league, we ended up with 26 participants in it. Currently, leads the way with 101 points. If you're in our fantasy league, how'd your first week or first round go? Let us know in the chat. Where are you sitting? Where are you sitting points wise? And what are you thinking about doing this week? Joel has Allen's and Diggs stacks, which we talked about earlier. That was the best stack of the weekend. He also had Alvin Kamara, Mark Andrews at tight end, and then suck up in the Bucs defense. Bucs defense didn't do great, but they did enough. They didn't do like the Steelers defense did and gave you negative points. This wasn't the perfect lineup of the weekend, but it was good enough to at least lead the way through round 1. And I got a text message yesterday about this idea behind keeping the lineup or changing up the lineup. What what do you guys want to do? Like, let me know. What do you want to do? It's very difficult to guess, right? There's four AFC teams left. It's difficult to guess who's going to get to the Super Bowl from that. The Chiefs have the best odds. I think they're at like minus 130. I was looking today, which was very surprising, but I think it's mainly because of their opponent, the Browns. Browns are like plus 7,000 to make the Super Bowl still. Nobody is liking the Browns to beat the Chiefs. Maybe not so much the Chiefs, but beat the Chiefs and then beat the Bills or Ravens. And so for me, I've got a Ravens and Saints stack. I think actually in mine, I do have that in a different playoff league. But in the Rumbles of Red League, I've got a Bills and Bucks stack. So I need to decide, do I want to go and try to keep riding one of these two teams, or do I expect them to lose? I took the Bills because I expected the Bills to play the Steelers. Can I expect the Bills to beat the Ravens? That's where I'm at. And if they do, then I get my Allen Diggs 3 times and against hopefully the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. And then if they upset the Chiefs, I get Allen's Diggs stack times 4. I mean, that's going to be great. So, I think ultimately it comes down to what you think. Who do you think is going to go? Who do you think is going to win? If you've got a wild card team coming into this next round, who do you think is going to – do you anticipate them winning that game? Sometimes it's not all about who's going to score the most points in fantasy. Sometimes it's not about, well, I got to play J.K. Dobbins because he's going to be the best running back to play this week. It's not always about that, because if you expect the Bills to win that game, maybe you don't want J.K. Dobbins, because if he loses a game, you don't get the multiplier anymore. So I shoot for Super Bowl players. I won a league last year. I had the Packers-Chiefs stack. I loaded up on Saints in the first round. They lost, which was kind of a blessing in disguise, because it forced me. I didn't have a choice. I couldn't keep any of my plays. It forced me to change. I changed to Packers-Chiefs. That's all the players I had were Packers and Chiefs players. They make the Super Bowl. Sorry, not Packers, 49ers. Packers might do it this year. I had 49ers and Chiefs players. And that's how I won. I get times 3 in the Super Bowl. And Mostert went off one of those games. That was nice. But I got times 3 in the Super Bowl. And when you get that multiplier, you really set yourself apart from everyone else. So if you're playing in a playoff league, that's my recommendation, is thinking about who you think is going to make the playoffs. If you think the Chiefs are going to make the playoffs or the Super Bowl, maybe you just jump in with the Chiefs this week. It's a possibility. That's my guess, is that's what a lot of people will do. So you got to be different somehow. Maybe you stack them with an NFC team that you like. Maybe you go Chiefs and Ravens and try to keep riding your Ravens to the AFC Championship and then Chiefs into the Super Bowl, something like that. You're going to have to be a little different. My guess is we've got 28 participants, in the playoff league. 26 participants. I can't read. We have 26 participants in the playoff league. I'm guessing 15 of them come in with Pat Mahomes. Probably. We're a lot of Chiefs fans. We like Patrick Mahomes. So just be different. You're going to want to be different. It's 2021, folks. It's time to stop putting off your buying your new dream home. Maybe you're worried about the hassle. Maybe you're worried about you can't sell your current home. Maybe time's a factor. You don't have as much time to go look around as you want. COVID's out there. You don't know. Can you see him? Is it a virtual? How do you do that? Well, Chris Grieve and Homefront Realty, he's here. He's here to help you. His hardworking, charismatic personality is going to be there every step of the way to ensure a seamless process for you in buying your new dream home and selling your current home. Contact Chris Grieve today at 620-212-0221 to get your buying or selling process started. Again, that's 620-212-0221. You can email him at grievechris@kw.com or find him on social media at Homefront CG. Homefront Realty, LLC, serving all for those that have. I talked to Chris earlier today. I told him we better get into the live stream. I know he's in our pick'ems in our playoff league. Hopefully I kick his butt. That's really all I care about is beating him and winning a little money as well, but beating him. I already got a question here. I'm going to read it off the chat. My internal debate in my head, do I take a flyer on Chubb or drop him to pick up Clyde now? I give out the multiplier now, but it could pay off if Clyde in case he advances. They should. That's the internal debate that everybody's having, right? Do you take your multiplier now or do you take a chance in the future? I can tell you ×3 in a Super Bowl is more than ×2 right now. But do you think the Chiefs can make the Super Bowl? They're going to have to face the Bills or the Ravens. I don't think they would be heavy favorites in those two games. I think they'll be favorites, but I wouldn't expect them to be 10-point favorites like they are against the Browns. If the Browns are going to win this game or keep it close, it's going to be on the back of Chubb, right? I mean, that's how they're going to have to win the game. So you get a ×2 now. Could you hedge a little bit? I don't know what the rest of your lineup is, but could you hedge a little bit? Could you keep Chubb, but maybe play a couple Chiefs players with them? So then you have both. If one of the two teams are going to win, you get a little bit of both of those. I was going to try to pull this up real quick, see what you've got. Oh, sitting in 5th place, 93 points. That's a good start. That's a really good start. A lot better start than my 75 with 2 fat zeros. Thanks, Gronk. So you got Lamar, Chubb, Diggs, Cook, Suckup, and the Saints. So there's not a lot of correlation here. A lot of one-offs, just trying to take the best play from each team. Don't mind that. So you'll have Lamar and Diggs playing each other. So you know one of those two guys will be moving on. You'll get a ×3 from one of those two guys, right? So you're going to like that. You might not want to move off of that. And so from there, it is about your running back and Nick Chubb. And if you can get 23 out of Nick Chubb again, though, now you're getting 46. That's a lot of points. Can you expect Clyde to bring that many points? It's going to be a good question for you. Question that you're going to have to ultimately answer. I would tell you that for me, I think I would rather just take Chubb and the ×2 multiplier just because he's so good and you know the Browns are going to ride him. And then if you're expecting him to lose to the Chiefs, maybe you get the Chiefs somewhere else. Maybe you take Travis Kelce and come off of Jared Cook. Something to that matter if you want to get a little bit of Chiefs exposure. Let's move on to the Sunday slate here. Ravens beat the Titans 20-13 and really a game that really severely underwhelmed. It was a fun game to watch, but it wasn't great for fantasy football, that's for sure. I'll get back to the chat here. Let me get through. Ravens cover the 3.5 here. The total, that was never close. I think the line was in the 50s, and this game ends up at 33. So the total was never – the under was never in doubt. Lamar, he doesn't underwhelm. He has that long touchdown run. That was awesome just to watch. I think it was 48 yards, maybe somewhere in there. Long touchdown run. He was the chalk of the day, but he wasn't the quarterback that you wanted at the end of the day. If you had Lamar for the start of the day, you were feeling really good. Right? He puts up maybe 24, 25 points. You're feeling okay about it. But we'll talk about it here in a little while. He wasn't the one that you wanted at the end of the day. I love J.K. Dobbins at 6,800 on daily. He ended up being a lot more chalky than I expected him to be. I saw he's around 50% owned. I thought, or I at least saw the projections that I look at, he was sitting around like 25, 30%, which is still a little chalky on a 3-game slate, but I didn't expect him to be 50% on, and he wasn't great, which obviously hurt me. Marquise Brown hit. He went 7 catches, 109 yards. You liked that. And on the Titan side of it, it was all about A.J. Brown. He was 12% owned, 15%. I was talking to Matt. He had him in a GPP at 15% owned, and that was the play. If you took a Lamar, Marquise Brown, and brought him back with A.J. Brown, and that was it, and that was your only play of this game, it would have worked out okay. And then you could have stacked maybe the Steelers wide receivers with that. That would have been great. That would have been big time for you. You probably would have won some money if you would have done that. I had a lot of Corey Davis because he was the cheaper play of the two. A.J. Brown was the more expensive play. And Corey Davis, his big games have come when the Titans are behind. And I expected the Titans to play from behind. They didn't necessarily play from behind the whole game. They were up, I think, 10-0 early. Think it might have been 10-10 at halftime if I remember right. And then they played a little bit from behind. But yeah, he was a dud, man. 0 points. Again, I couldn't avoid the guys that put up 0 points. Every single game, it felt like I had a guy that put up 0 points. And they're not guys that are bad at fantasy. They put up numbers. They put up stats. Corey Davis puts up numbers when they're playing from behind. And he wasn't even in at the end of the game. So I don't know if he ended up getting injured. I didn't see a report come out of him being injured. But that does hurt a little bit there with Corey Davis. I faded Derrick Henry. I faded him hard. That was the right play. He's so expensive. He was 10-2. I talked about it on Friday. I did not like it. I didn't want to be playing him. I faded him. That was the right play. And like I said, a little bit of a Marquise Brown and A.J. Brown skinny stack here. That probably would have been the ultimate play on Sunday out of this game. This game that we expected to be high-flying, shootout style. You got Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill and A.J. Brown against Lamar and Dobbins and Andrews and all those. I mean, we expected it. The Titans' defense is terrible, which kind of makes Lamar against the Bills' defense, who are much better than the Titans' defense. They're not the best defense left. I mean, I think that's probably chalk that up to maybe the Rams. But the Bills' defense are better than the Titans, and Lamar didn't do enough to win you a big GPP anyways. My FFPC plays Dobbins for Baltimore. He's fine. I like him again this week. I think he's going to be okay coming out of Baltimore. I think the best play is probably Lamar, but I didn't want to play Lamar at quarterback. And then it was Henry for the Titans, and that's a miss because you want the best player of the team. That would have been A.J. Brown. My two stacks are still in play for me, Bills and Saints. Yeah, that's what you do. That's what you do. One of our guys stacked the Ravens, the whole team, the Ravens. I don't like that too much. I actually was texting him about it, trying to learn a little bit why he went all Ravens. I think you lose a little bit of ceiling. If you come out, you play Lamar, Dobbins, Marquise Brown, Mark Andrews. When Mark Andrews is catching touchdowns, Marquise Brown is not, right? When J.K. Dobbins is running touchdowns, Lamar Jackson is not. So I don't really – even if you expect the Ravens to make a Super Bowl run, so you get them at ×4, obviously, yeah, you're going to be the only one with all the Ravens at ×4. But, again, I just don't – I think that I would rather take the Ravens and add them with a Saints, or take the Bills and Saints, or take the Ravens and maybe add the Packers to it this week and get a little bit of exposure elsewhere. I don't mind quarterback, wide receiver, tight end. That's what I did last year with the Chiefs. Mahomes, Hill, Kelsey was suck up. I brought it back Raheem Mostert and the 49ers defense. You got to be a little different. I just think you hurt your ceiling if you take all from one team. But I like the Bills Saints stack. Just gonna go for it. I mean, you got to hope they win it. If they get to the Super Bowl, you're set to win the money. Speaking of the Saints, they shut down the Bears, winning 21-9. Saints, I took the Bears at plus 10.5. Last time we talked, the line was at 10. I was talking with Trent. He did the research for me. What did you tell me? You told me something like 2 times has the spread been, has a wild card weekend game ended with a spread more than 10 points, something to that matter. I loved it. So I'll take the Bears. And then they go off and lose by 12. The under hits here, which was also a little bit surprising. This was the only game I thought that the over might actually hit. But I think ultimately what this game told us was the Bears' offensive, not really explosion, but success. The last coming down the stretch had a lot more to do with the bad teams they played. You know, I listened to a guy, he said something about the Bears' first good team they played in a while was against the Packers, and look how bad they did. I thought, man, I probably should have thought about that as well when thinking about this Bears offense. Alvin Kamara's chalk hit, if you played DFS, he was good. He wasn't really good for the whole game, but he gets the touchdown in the end. Latavius Murray, that was a pivot that off of Kamara, not one I really liked, but one that was a pivot. He looked good there for a minute. He gets the touchdown, which was weird. If you were watching this game, he kind of just ends up turning last minute, and Breeze finds him, and he turns and runs it. I think it's probably 9-yard touchdown. That was looking really good because Kamara at that point was, I think, probably being scored by Latavius Murray, sitting around 10, 11 points. Kamara ends up getting the touchdown towards the end of the game. His chalk hit. Michael Thomas chalk hit as he gets the touchdown as well. And nothing on the Bears side. Allen Robinson sucked. David Montgomery sucked. They both underperformed. If you played them, it hurt. I liked Robinson in this game. I didn't like Montgomery. I had no shares of Montgomery anywhere. But I liked Allen Robinson because I expected the Bears to be passing a lot. And they're passing it to Wims. Did you see the wide open touchdown he drops? Goes right through his hands. I mean, I might have been able to catch that ball. So Robinson doesn't get there. Montgomery doesn't get there. So he played much of this Bears side. You didn't win a lot of money. FFPC play here is Kamara for the Saints. I wanted to eat that chalk, and I'm happy I have so far. And it was A-Rob for the Bears. Ultimately, going back, now that I know, right, hindsight 2020, going back, I would have faded the Bears. I probably would have played the Bears kicker. I might even hard faded the Bears, but play the Bears kicker and then played Akers instead of the Rams kicker. That would have been a much better play. That would have got me a lot farther up the leaderboard than I am currently. And then the Browns. The Browns just blast the Steelers, baby. It was awesome. It was awesome to watch. If you bet this game, it was over in a hurry. I started the game with Steelers 6.5. I thought the Steelers were just gonna destroy Cleveland. I didn't think it was gonna be close, and it wasn't close. But it wasn't close because the Browns were doing all the ass kicking. I did take the Steelers live plus 650 at one point during this Browns meltdown. At plus 650, I thought that's a nice line. I can put $10 on that. I put $5 on that. We come back and win $65. Dude, I thought they were gonna melt down, and unfortunately, Big Ben just kept throwing interceptions like it was his job. It wasn't like his job depended on it, that's for sure. In DFS, I late swapped a lot to Kareem Hunt and Cleveland defense, and man, I was feeling giddy there for a while. Cleveland scores a touchdown on defense coming right out of the gate. Hunt gets the the rushing touchdown on the next Cleveland drive. I'm moving up the leaderboard, feeling good, but those are the only two guys I had. And by the time the game ended, Big Ben and company is actually who you wanted. And that's what's funny about playing fantasy football or DFS. The guy throws 3 interceptions, and he's the guy you wanted. He's the guy you wanted. I was in a contest, 3,100 people in this contest. Single entry, I believe it was single entry or 3 max. That's all I usually play. 3,100 people. Big Ben, Nick Chubb, Chase Claypool, Juju, and Ebron. So he triple stacked with Big Ben. With Claypool, Juju, and Ebron, he brought it back with Nick Chubb. That was the winning lineup. That was number 1 out of 3,100 lineups. That's who you wanted. I know Matt played Big Ben. He was out of the money all day long. He ended up winning some money. I talked to him about that. He told me he was playing Big Ben. I didn't want to do that. Should have. That's where that was where I was at on Sunday, was this Big Ben just overstacking the Steelers. And they lost the game. But they had to throw, I think he threw over 65 times, had over 500 yards passing, because they were playing catch up so much because he turned the ball over. But an interception is only -2. Touchdowns are worth a lot more than that. 500 yards, you get some bonuses in there. No, I mean, it was a nice play. I saw another lineup somewhere in some of the tournaments I was playing. It had Ben, Claypool, Juju, and Deontay Johnson. I think they had Kareem Hunt coming back, maybe Austin Hooper as well. This was the game, and nobody saw it coming. No one. I didn't see it coming. Bettors didn't see it. Sharp bettors didn't see this coming. You could have brought back Chubb, Hunt, Landry. They were the moneymakers there. Quick question here. For the pick'ems, who you feeling gets it done? Brady or Breeze? That's a good question, you know. Who's gonna break the hip first? Nah, both these quarterbacks, man, they're so good. And they've been so good for so long. My gut tells me Brady. And I think that comes off history, right? We've seen Brady do it. We've seen Breeze and company fail in the playoffs time and time again as well. So I want to say Brady. I want to go with Brady. Breeze is at home. I looked at the line earlier, -3. And in the betting world, 3 points for the home team is automatic. So essentially, Vegas is saying this is going to be a pick 'em, and they give them the 3 points for being a home team. So being in the dome, it will be different, but it's not packed. If this was a regular year and packed to the brim in the dome, I would like Breezy and company even more. But I think that Tom Brady, I think that it could be another year of Tom Brady. Could we see Patrick Mahomes versus Tom Brady round? What would it be, 4th round in the playoffs already? At least the 3rd. This time it'd be AFC versus NFC in the Super Bowl. That'd be cool. I think that'd be cool. But I'm going to say, I was looking at the times. It's a 5:40 game. That's not too bad. So many people were talking about this narrative of Tom Brady and going to bed early, and he's like an 8 p.m. guy. And last week against the Washington football team and in primetime, Tom Brady is not good in primetime. And he wasn't great last week either. So that could have a little bit. This is a 5:40 start time, so I guess you would still call it prime time, but it's not like a 7:15, 8:15 on the East Coast. So I don't think it'll be as bad, but that'll probably play into it a little bit. Tom hasn't been good in his last 6 games in prime time, so that'll play. That'll play a little bit. I think when I'm betting this game, if the Saints get under 3, I'll probably end up taking the Saints. Although my gut tells me Tom Brady wins the game. I think from a betting perspective, taking the home team, if I can get them at -3, I'm going to take that. If I can get them at -2.5, so I can get them at -3, I'll probably take that. I know I'm wavering a little bit, but I like Tom Brady. I just don't know. Saints at home, if I can get them at -2.5, I'll probably do that. I just think the money's smarter there. Let me update you quick on my FFPC team. I know you probably don't care, but if you're new listener here, listening this week for the first time or didn't catch my Friday stream, FFPC, you're taking 12 players, a quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and everybody, a kicker, defense, everybody else is flex. But you can only take 1 player from each team. There's 14 teams, so you got a hard fade 2 teams. I hard faded the Colts and the Washington football team. You don't want your kickers and defense to win. Unfortunately, my kicker and defense both won. Those are like what you call a soft fade. You got to play somebody, but you don't want them to win. So I'm sitting, I got 165.5 points, sitting at 4,700th place. So not great. Not winning any money quite yet. But at one point during that Cleveland-Pittsburgh game, I was in the top 1,800. I was feeling really good. And then I saw, as everybody else did, the Cleveland defense kind of just whittle away there. Ended up giving up a shit ton of points, a lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns. So now I'm down here at 4,700 plus. Not great, but I do still have the maximum player minutes remaining, which you like that. Going in, I've got Clyde and Devontae Adams for the Chiefs and the Packers. So we'll see how that goes. My playoff lineups, I talked a little bit about them earlier. Playoff contest, I got a Bucks-Bills stack. That's the one I'm most worried about right now because I don't know if Ronald Jones is going to play. I don't know what Gronk's going to do against the Saints. And then I'm in 2 different leagues, so I got to diversify my own assets a little bit. So I've got a Ravens and Saints stack. That one I think I feel most comfortable with, just knowing the players. The Bucks, I don't know. So either way, so this is what's going to happen. I have a Bills-Bucks stack and a Ravens-Saints stack. So the Bills and Saints or the Ravens and Bucks are going to win. That's what's going to happen. Put it on the board. If you're betting one, don't bet the other. If you're betting the Bills, then you need to bet the Saints too. Because I don't think they're both – it just – that's not going to happen for me. I do expect a lot of Packers-Chiefs stacks, which makes sense, right? In the playoffs, the team with the bye usually makes the Super Bowl. So expect a lot of Packers-Chiefs stacks. If you do that, nobody's going to balk at you. Try to be a little different somehow, some way. Try to be a little different because if everyone comes out and plays Mahomes, Aaron Jones, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and the Packers defense, well, you're going to be splitting the pot. So I wouldn't get weird with it. It's not some 3,000 entry tournament. So I wouldn't get weird with it, but you might want to be a little different if you go that route. Maybe you take Robert Tonyan instead of a Kelsey. Maybe you take Devontae Adams instead of Hill, something to that matter. Let's take a quick look here. Pull Gronk. My lineup, man. I'm definitely not playing Gronk in DFS in these little 2-game slates. I'll probably play mostly 2-game slates this week. I was going to take a quick look. I got about 5-6 minutes here. We can mess around. We'll take a further look into round 2 later on this week. Like I said earlier in the stream, trying to work with Matt on some scheduling. If I can get him on with me, that would be awesome. If not, I'll run it myself. Ride solo. Nothing wrong with riding solo every once in a while. But let's take a quick look at these. I got this pulled up. So, Rams are +7 currently against the Packers. Over under is 45.5 currently. Man, 7 points a lot, but this Packers offense is different this year. I think a lot of people will be on the Rams because we watched the Rams play last week, right? And we watched the Packers play in the playoffs last year. But I like the Packers here. If I can get this down to 6.5 at some point this week, I'll probably take that. I also like the over a little bit. I think that the total is going to be in my teaser with Matt. We put out our 6.6 game teaser every week. It pays out plus 525 or maybe 550. But if you can get this total, if I tease this 6 points down to 39.5, Aaron Rodgers can put up 40 points by himself. I think that's probably where my teaser is going to go. The Ravens and the Bills are currently a 2.5 point favorite. They're the home team. So I talked earlier about home teams getting 3 points. This is going to be different. The Rams and Packers, the Rams have to travel across the country to play a 4:35 game Eastern time. At least it's not noon. If it was noon, I'd be all over the Packers because we know how the West Coast travels to the East Coast. This Baltimore-Buffalo game, Baltimore's not traveling very far at all. And so you're not going to worry about that. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it'll be a fun game. Bills minus 2.5. I'm gonna watch this line, see where the sharps are at, see where all the money goes. You can watch them. You can see where money goes. Where the money goes is where the good people, the big money, the people who are laying like $50,000 on this. You watch stuff like that, you kind of know where the sharps are going a little bit there. We got about 3-4 more minutes. Got a couple more games. Just quickly running through right now. The divisional round matchups, taking a look at them. We'll go deeper into the divisional round later on this week, but hit the like button. Please subscribe to my YouTube page. And if you got any last-minute questions here, throw them in the chat. If you got some questions about your own personal lineup, maybe some pick'ems. Taylor asked earlier about pick'ems. Herbie and the Lou asked earlier about his lineup a little bit. So throw it in there. If you got any questions here before we get off here, throw them in the chat. I'll be happy to answer them. And also please hit that like button. Let's see here. Cleveland Browns plus 10 against the Chiefs. And let me bet here. This game, a 2:05 start time. We've got a dang kindergarten basketball game at 3:30. We're right in the middle of it. Yeah, that's going to be frustrating, but hopefully by then, Chiefs are far and away ahead of the Browns, and we won't miss much. As the coach, I probably shouldn't be watching the game. This is the time I regret being a volunteer coach. If I was just a dad in the stands, I could just pull it up on my phone, but I'll have to get like an assistant coach just tell me, like whispering in my ear. Maybe on TV timeouts. Kindergarten basketball, you got to stop every 4 minutes to substitute. Almost every 4 minutes, I'm like, hey, give me a score update. Have my wife in my ear telling me what's going on. So the Chiefs are minus 10. I think that's a lot. I don't like that. I mean, I talked about it with the Bears earlier and taking the Bears at plus 10.5. You get these big lines in the playoffs. It's not. I don't like that. And honestly, I don't like the over-under either. 56.5 seems pretty high for a playoff game. That could be another teaser where we could tease that up to 62.5. Man, I don't know. No, I don't want to do that. Maybe tease it down and take the over. Tease it down to 15.5, take the over. I don't want to. I don't want to guess. I don't want to take an under in a Chiefs game, because we know that it can get into a shootout mode in a hurry. And this Chiefs defense can be had a little bit. In garbage time, yeah, I don't think I want to I don't want to just play with the under, that's for sure. The other game, last game of the weekend, could be the most fun. It's the Tom Brady versus Drew Brees. It's the Buccaneers versus the Saints. I talked about it a little earlier. My gut says I think Tom Brady can pull this one out, but my betting hat would rather be on the Saints if I can get them at -2.5. So I don't know. I still got to do a little bit more research on this game. I'll have my final line to you later on in the week. In my next stream, I'll tell you where I end up placing my bets on this game. I will say, I think that in a game slate on Sunday, everyone is going to be playing the Chiefs and Browns. So if you're playing DFS, you could – same thing, I guess, on the Saturday slate. Although you have a little bit more exposure to the Packers, but I think everybody will be on the Ravens and Bills. And I think for me, just being different and getting into this Tampa Bay New Orleans game and hoping it's the one that shoots out, especially in a larger field tournament, getting into that game, hope that game shoots out. Could be. We'll talk more about DFS. We'll talk more betting later on this week. Again, hopefully be on Thursday. Bluetooth headset, and I can pass on some update. Hey, I'm digging it. Give me some updates here during the Chiefs game. I'm going to need it. I appreciate all of you joining us today. Again, if you're joining us late, maybe you're not watching the live stream, but just watching the video later on, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel at The Rumbles of Red. Follow me on Twitter at Trev's Fantasy Pod. If you're on Facebook, I've got a Rumbles of Red Facebook page. Hit the like button on that as well. Apple Podcast, Spotify, subscribe, 5-star reviews, all the works. As much as you can follow me, as much as you can like and subscribe, the more the merrier. I appreciate all the likes and subscriptions and the reviews. Thank you for joining me tonight. I'm going to get out of here before I get in trouble. Have a great week. We'll be back later this week. Again, follow me on Twitter at Trev's Fantasy Pod to learn more about the timing of our next stream. It'll be Thursday or Friday. Have a great week.